Hey, fight fans, thanks for joining us and welcome to The Weigh-In, the show that spotlights the latest MMA bouts and the topics surrounding the sport. I'm Dorian, Mr. MMA Hernandez, and with me as always is Nathan Tyrone.
And tonight we're going to bring to you picks and previews and predictions for UFC 193 that takes place Saturday, November 14th in Melbourne, Australia. And what a card this is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Take it away, Mr. MMA.
All right, we're going to start with the prelims, and the first fight on the prelims is going to be in the flyweight division. It's going to have Richie Vasilic versus Danny the Gremlin Martinez. Let's start with Vasilic first. He's 10-4 in his overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 1-2. All right, he was a competitor on the Ultimate Fighter Smashes. Actually lost, but was brought back in the semis when Mike Wilkinson had to bow out due to an injury. His last loss was in November of last year by TKO to Louis Smolka. Let's go with Martinez now. Martinez is 17-7 in his overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 0-4. Okay, with one fight of the night bonus under his belt. He was also a competitor on the spot for the Ultimate Fighter Season 18, but was eliminated in trying to get into the house. His last loss was in June of this year to Saron Kakai by unanimous decision. Prediction I made, by the way. All right?
Yeah.
But my weigh-in for this fight, I'm going to go with Martinez. Vasilic has a susceptible chin. If you look at his record, the man's been knocked out at least 2-3 times, while Martinez is a do-or-die fighter who has yet to be finished, even with his 0-4 record in the UFC. If you also look at their resumes, Martinez has fought stiffer competition than Vasilic. And I think that the long layoff, being that it's almost a year that Vasilic has fought, some people could look at it as a bonus. I look at it as a negative because there is a point where it's just been too long of a layoff, and I think that's going to play a factor. And I would not be surprised if the loser of this fight gets handed a pink slip.
So someone's getting fired, guys. I like Vasilic, and I think he's fast, he's strong, he's much faster than Martinez, and he's much more accurate. And Martinez, he's had a tough ride in the UFC, like Mr. MMA said. But some of those tougher opponents that Mr. MMA had mentioned, guys like Scott Jorgensen, I would not personally classify them as tough opponents. I think that speed is going to be a factor here, and I think that the rear naked choke that Vasilic likes to pull on when he whips out his jiu-jitsu is going to really, it's going to show its head. He loves that move, and his jiu-jitsu is growing and growing. So I'm going to disagree with Mr. MMA on this one, and I'm going to go with Vasilic.
Okay. All right, next fight in the prelims, folks, is going to be in the light heavyweight division. It's going to have Anthony the Hippo Parosh versus Gian Villante. Let's start with Parosh. 15-8 in his overall professional MMA career, 5-6 in the UFC with one knockout of the night bonus to his accolade. Has never had a win streak over 3, and his last loss was in May of this year by TKO to Sean O'Connell. Villante is a Strikeforce acquisition who's 13-5 in his overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 3-3 with 2 fight of the night bonuses. He's not had a streak over 3 since leaving a promotion, Ring of Combat. His last loss came in July of this year by TKO to Tom Lawler. But my weigh-in, I'm going to go with Villante. Parosh seems to be content on being a journeyman, even at 43 years of age. If you're going to go for it, go for it. Otherwise, if you're just going to stay there to be a punching bag, Villante will definitely fill that order and punch you out. I don't feel that Parosh fights with any hunger. If you really, they say you're only as good as your last fight. Well, Parosh hasn't looked hungry for quite some time. I don't know if it's the wear and tear of the years. But let's be honest, we just finished watching a 45-year-old, I believe 44-year-old, get TKO'd this past Saturday with Dan Henderson. I don't see Parosh faring any better, and he's not even nowhere near the caliber of Dan Henderson. Villante, the younger and hungrier fighter in my book, his hand's getting raised.
Okay, well, I hear that bell tolling because this will be the second matchup that me and Mr. MMA are in disagreement with. I think that Villante's got some issues with the Parosh matchup. I agree with a lot of what Mr. MMA said, though. Parosh is an older person. He is a journeyman. But he has cracked into the top 10 and has fought some reputable names like Ryan Bader and Ryan Gemmo, just to name a few. And Parosh really, in my opinion, is a banger. He loves to bang. He's really good at it, but he's a little one-dimensional, in my opinion. I don't think that the age is going to be a factor with this one. I think that Parosh is going to pull this one out, and I weigh in on Parosh.
Okay, nice. All right, next on the prelims is going to be in the welterweight division. We've got Kyle Noki versus Peter Sabata.
Yeah.
Let's start with Noki first. He's 27-1 in his overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 5-3 with 1 submission of the night bonus to his accolade. He was a competitor on the Ultimate Fighter Season 11 for Team Liddell. Has won 2 of his last 5, with that last win coming in May of this year by split decision over Jonathan Webb.
Right.
Sabata's 15-4-1 in his overall professional MMA career. In the UFC, 2-3. Okay, after a 3-fight losing streak, he was released in 2010, returned in the May of 2013, and is now presently riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this fight on Saturday, with that last win being in June of this year by submission over Steve Kennedy. My way in, I'm going to go with Sabata. Noki seems to be in the waning part of his career. Performances are unpredictable and erratic. 1 minute he looks like an elite fighter, 1 minute he looks like he's hungry, and next minute he looks like the cruiser, the guy who's willing to point fight and hopefully maybe skid by with the judge's decision. Like I said, I just don't see the hunger in him anymore. I think the UFC release for Sabata definitely turned something on in him, and the man went 7-0-1 in the regional scene to get himself back in the UFC.
Incredible.
If that doesn't show hunger, I don't know what else is. Sabata for the win.
Yeah, Sabata's looking good. He's super fast, and he stops like 83%, I believe, of the takedown attempts, and he ends like 67% of his wins in submissions. He's well rounded. Noke is not a slouch. Okay, he likes to bang. He likes to stand in there. He's a very difficult guy to take down as well. So this may end up standing, but I believe that Sabata's going to want to take it down. He's going to want to get it on the ground. He's going to want to whip some of those submissions onto Noke. So I'm going to agree with Mr. MMA on this one and go on the weigh in with Sabata as well.
All right. Now comes the feature fight of the prelims. It's going to be in the lightweight division. It's going to have Jake, the Celtic Kid Matthews, versus Akbar El Caballero Arreola.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
And then let's start with Matthews. Is 9-1 in his overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 2-1. He was a contestant on the Ultimate Fighter Nations for Team Australia. His last loss was in May of this year by submission to James Vick. Arreola is 23-9-1 in his professional MMA career, but is 1-2 in the UFC. Has 17 wins by submission, 5 by knockout. Unfortunately, none of those were in the UFC. But his last loss was in March of this year by unanimous decision to Francisco Trinaldo. My way in, I'm going to go with Matthews. If you're only good as your last performance, Arreola hasn't even shown me that he wants to stay in the UFC. I feel that Matthews is the younger, definitely the tougher of the two, and that would even show more as the fight progresses on between these two when it really comes down to it. No matter what, I definitely see this contest being decided in the stand-up. But when it comes to one having more heart than the other, Arreola, once somebody pressures him and shows that they can either match him in striking expertise or lay that real big bomb on him, he pretty much runs the rest of the fight and tries to, I don't want to say run, but to me, he becomes a point fighter, which to me is almost the equivalent of running. But yeah, ultimately, Matthews with his hand getting raised in this one.
Okay. Well, Arreola's a scary fighter. He's strong. He's fast. He's got everything going for him. He's young. I think he's hungrier than Mr. MMA. I do. I think he's hungrier than you give him credit for. And I think that he's taller. He's got the reach advantage. Slightly slower, but he does have a lot going for him. Whereas Matthews is a super tough kid. Also, he's well-rounded, a crafty striker with crafty submissions. I'm going to weigh in with Arreola, though. I mean, Arreola's got some ridiculous number of armbar submissions that remind me of Ronda Rousey's record before she was famous as the arm collector. And he's not afraid to whip on a rear naked either. He's really good on the ground, even though Matthews has not been taken down in the UFC. So Mr. MMA is right to think that this is going to stay on its feet. I don't think that someone who has not been taken down is going to hold that record long as a pro in the UFC. And I don't think that Matthews is going to be able to beat Arreola. I'm going to weigh in with Arreola.
All right, folks, and that's the prelims. And now on to the juicy part of the evening, the main card. We're going to start on the first fight on the main card. It's going to be in the heavyweight division, bringing out the big boys first.
Yeah.
It's going to be the number 14 ranked Stefan
Easy for you to say,
yeah, the number 14th ranked Stefan Skyscraper Struve versus Jared, the Big Show, Rosho.
Yeah.
And let's start with Struve. Is 30-7 in his professional MMA career, but is 10-5 in the UFC with 1 fight of the night, 1 knockout of the night, and 3 submission of the night bonuses to his accolade.
That's right.
He has won 5 of his last 7. 3 of those earned bonuses, with that last one coming in August of this year by unanimous decision over Minotauro Nogueira. And a lot of you might remember, shortly after, Nogueira retired.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go now to the Big Show, Rosho. He is a 4-time NCAA Division I qualifier, 2010 NCAA runner-up, 3-time All-American, and a 3-time Big 12 finalist in wrestling.
Yeah.
Has a 13-2 overall professional MMA career and is 5-1 though in the UFC. Last win in August of this year by unanimous decision over Timothy Johnson. My way in though, I'm gonna go with Struve, and I know at times I want not to, but I'm putting faith in Struve. I want him to make a comeback. At one point in time, this guy was on a 5-fight win streak and was doing very well. He had to deal with some health problems. Even had to go see specialists, which the UFC helped him with, to try to help him get back in the cage. The night that he was supposed to make that comeback, he actually had an anxiety attack, and then his fight with Mitrione got canceled. So right now, he's trying to make as much of that resurgence as he can. He definitely looked impressive with his Minotauro, with his fight with the Nogueira, although he didn't get the finish. But then look who we're talking about. It's Nogueira. And he won by unanimous decision. So that still says something. But the one key thing of why I keep bringing this up, he was not gassed. No matter what, they were always throwing. They were always going at it. Yes, they were tired. But Rosholt has a tendency to gas and gas badly. He actually almost lost that fight with Timothy Johnson. If it would have been a 5-round fight, Johnson would have ended up getting his hand raised. So, to me, Rosholt's cardio is suspect, especially with all the weight that he's carrying. I feel that Struve definitely has better cardio and is definitely more dangerous off his back, where Rosholt is going to try more than anything to take Struve, okay, once he realizes that it's going to be too hard for him to reach the skyscraper to get off a good effective punch.
Yeah.
So no matter what, I definitely believe Struve wants to return to his winning ways. Struve with his hand raised.
I love Stefan Struve, and I'm so excited that all of his medical problems are in the past for him. I know he did, like Mr. MMA say, have an anxiety issue when matched up or before the matchup with
Matt
Mitrione, right? But he said he was ready to fight, but they would not let him fight because of the fighter safety outlines from the UFC and Las Vegas Athletic Commission. So Struve is really, really an interesting fighter. I think he's got so much heart. He's got the heart of a fighter. This guy does not have quit in him, and he has really crafty jiu-jitsu. I mean, he does things for a guy his size.
It's unbelievable.
You would think that it's amazing. It's amazing how he moves for a guy his size. He has been susceptible to heavy hitters, though, and Rosholt is known to slug heavy with the leather. So I worry that this could stymie Struve in his approach. Hopefully he learns to use his reach. I think that is one of the weakest parts of Struve's whole fight game, is he's so big and he doesn't really use his reach that well. I hope
manipulate it well.
Yeah, I hope that he works on that. I don't think that it's going to be a problem with him and Rosholt, though. Though Rosholt's really got some good wrestling and some decent takedowns. The ground is no place safe for you when it comes to the skyscraper, and I'm going to weigh in with Struve as well.
Okay, next on the card is going to be in the middleweight division. It's going to have the number 10 ranked Uriah Primetime Hall versus the number 14th ranked Robert Whittaker. All right, let's start with Hall first. He's 13-5 in his overall professional MMA career, but is 5-3 in the UFC with 1 performance of the night bonus. Right. He was a contestant on the Ultimate Fighter 17 for Team Sonnen, lost at the finale to Kevin Gastelum. Is presently riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this fight on Saturday, with that last win in September by TKO over Jagard Mousasi, where he won that performance of the night bonus. Whittaker, The Ultimate Fighter smashes welterweight winner, has a 15-4 overall professional MMA career, but in the UFC is 5-2 with one Fight of the Night bonus and one Performance of the Night bonuses to his accolade. He's presently riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this fight on Saturday, with that last win in May of this year by TKO over Brad Tavares, where he actually got that Performance of the Night bonus from. My weigh-in, and this one's a hard one because these guys are really well almost matched. Equally matched. I mean, there's only a 6-inch reach disadvantage between these two. The UFC has now implemented the statistic of leg reach, but since everything is still new and they're trying to get those numbers in, right now Hall shows up with a leg reach of 0. We already know that's not the case. But both these guys are 6 feet. That 6-inch reach advantage could play a factor. Especially, but the thing is that Hall is not just a puncher. He's also a kicker. We know he's not going to try to take this fight to the ground, but Whittaker can go anywhere with this fight, and he has shown that he's got the punching power to put your lights out.
That's right.
If I have to put it down, though, my ultimate weigh-in, Hall, that 6-inch reach advantage, I feel he's a more versatile striker than Whittaker, and I think Hall is finally coming into his own. Hall for the win.
Wow. Okay. You know, I like Hall. I like Hall and the way that he always looks for dynamic ways to strike. A really creative striker, really powerful striker, and a constantly growing fighter. I like to watch him. I know there's been some rumors that he might be on a hot seat in this matchup, and I don't think he is. Whittaker is an interesting matchup for Hall. He is ridiculously fast. I'm talking about 5 significant strikes a minute on average. That's not counting not significant strikes. That's not 5 strikes a minute. That's 5 significant strikes a minute on average with him. That is a deadly statistic. And Hall is no slouch when it comes to striking also. So this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. I'm going to agree with Mr. MMA. I'm going to weigh in with Hall as well.
All right. And now we come to the middle part of the card, folks. We're starting to wrap it up, but we go right back to the big boys again. It's going to be in the heavyweight division. Ooh. It's going to have the number 8 Mark, the Super Samoan Hunt, versus the number 11th ranked Antonio Bigfoot Silva. And let me rephrase this. This is actually Mark Hunt versus Antonio Silva 2. Yeah. Okay? But I'll go into more detail. Let's start with Hunt. He is 10-10-1 in his overall professional MMA career, but is 5-4-1 in the UFC with 1 Performance of the Night, 2 Fight of the Night, and 2 Knockout of the Night bonuses to his accolade. He fought Bigfoot to a draw in December of 2013, where they both got Fight of the Night bonuses for.
In Australia.
Hunt is presently riding a 2-fight losing streak coming into this fight. One of those losses, was for the interim championship. So don't let it fool you. Right. No matter what, this man is still fighting the top of the cream of the crop of his division. Okay, but that last loss was in May of this year by TKO to Stipe Miocic. All right, now let's go with Silva. Is 19-7-1 with 1 no contest in his overall professional MMA career, but is 3-4-1 in the UFC with 1 Fight of the Night and 1 Knockout of the Night bonus to his accolade. Right. He has lost 3 of his last 5. One of those was a title fight to Cain Velasquez. So once again, don't just look at it as regular losses. He was still fighting the upper echelon of his division. And his last one was in August of this year by TKO over Sao Pelele, who shortly after retired from MMA. Mm-hmm. Not due to the fight, but he did retire. Yeah. My weigh-in for this fight, I'm going to be honest with you. As much as Mr. MMA likes to use the science of the sport, plus I guess you could say that little sixth sense from watching these guys, this to me is a downright equal matchup. Their resumes are not going to give you any more clairvoyance or on this how this fight's going to go. I don't even know the way these guys went at it the first time. It's hard to see how they're going to be able to upgrade their offense on each other the next time around to be more effective. They threw everything and the kitchen sink at each other. Okay, let's remember, when you get a Fight of the Night, most of the time it's because the fight went the whole distance. These guys were throwing everything and the kitchen sink. They both had bloody faces and everything. I have to go on faith on this one. My faith, unfortunately, unfortunately for Mark Hunt, I'm going with Silva. I think Bigfoot's going to get his hand raised. No matter what, whenever this man puts his mind to something, he gets it accomplished. You wonder why he doesn't do it the first time around, and now having to deal with that TRT ban and his medical condition and trying to still show people that he is a credible and a deserving fighter to be in that cage. I think Silva's going to get his hand raised on Saturday.
Yeah, that last fight, last time they were in Australia, was incredible. And kids, if you haven't seen that fight, check out the UFC. They have offered that fight as a free fight this week. Go check it out and get your little warm-up before the match this weekend. It was amazing. Now, some of the interesting things about the last fight that's not the same as this fight is that Bigfoot's in he's got health problems. He's got legitimate health problems. He's got a acromegaly, which is a hormonal disorder. That's why he's huge. That's why he's Bigfoot. Much like Andre the Giant had a similar issue. But his camp has said he's feeling great. He hasn't had many of the problems he has that are associated with the disease over the past almost a year and a half, they say. And so I think he's coming into this match a little better than he came in to the previous match with Mark Hunt. Now, it's interesting. This whole card is matched up very well, and both of these fighters, exceptional fighters who fight the top of the top in their class, which is basically some of the biggest, baddest mofos on the planet. And these guys are getting to the octagon and do their business. Each of them have only had 2 wins in the last 2 years because of that fact, not a detriment or anything to do with lack of skill.
Exactly.
And so I'm with Mr. MMA. This one is going to be, as he likes to call it, a slobber knocker.
Big time.
But I agree with him again that my man Bigfoot is going to have his hand in the air. He will not settle for the draw this time, and he's going to pull it out, much like he's done with other people, Alistair Overeem and other various people who people thought that could put him away. Mark Hunt's not going to be able to put him away this time. I weigh in with Bigfoot Silva.
All right, folks, and now we're on to the co-main event of the evening, our first of our chick fights. All right, it's going to be it's going to be in the strawweight division. It's going to have the champion Joanne versus the number 8th ranked Valerie Trouble Letourneau.
Yeah.
Let's start with Jacek first. Is 10-0 in her overall professional MMA career. In the UFC, 4-0 with 1 performance of the night and 1 fight of the night bonus to her accolade. She beat Carla Esparza for the championship in March of this year, defended the belt in June of this year against Jessica Penne, where she also won by TKO.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go with Letourneau. Is 8-3 in her overall professional MMA career, but is 3-0 in the UFC. Has fought only 2 times, though, at strawweight, with that last one coming in August of this year by unanimous decision over Marina Moroz. My weigh-in, I'm going to have to go with Jacek. If you're only good as your last fight, Letourneau looked lethargic. It looked like it, and from what I'm seeing, she normally used to compete at the 145, 135 weight. Now trying to make strawweight, she's trying to put off a lot of weight, and I think it's taking its toll on her. And you're seeing it in her fight performance because when she was fighting in upper weight class 135, she moves quickly. She definitely shows her expertise, but when she has to make this weight cut, it's affecting her performance. And what's even crazier is that Joanne, the champion, also knows this. So when your own opponent even knows it, and us as just outside observers can see it, it's very hard to see how Letourneau is going to be able to do anything spectacular to win this fight, especially for the fact that her only way, really her main avenue for winning this fight is not on the stand-up, it's to get this fight to the ground. And we have seen Joanne Jacek's takedown defense. It's not even astonishing, it's amazing. Okay, and you know how I don't like one-dimensional fighters, and Joanne Jacek, yes, is a one-dimensional fighter. She's going to use her kickboxing and her Muay Thai to take the win. It's not going to be a grappling contest. So the whole fact that she's still able to defend against those takedowns and still defeat her opponents, it boggles the mind, but it shows true to her skill. I mean, if you just notice, Angela Overhill Kill just announced this week that she was released, and she's the same type of one-dimensional fighter like your Jacek. Only thing is, Jacek is a way better, more skilled striker. Who do I see winning this? Is it already not plainly obvious? Jacek for the win.
And this is an interesting fight. I didn't think that Letourneau would do as well as she did in her first match at strawweight, and I didn't think she'd win, and I was wrong about that. So I'm eating a little crow for you and the fans, and you too, Valerie. But you look at her and how emaciated she looks. The cut is really bad for her. It is a brutal cut, and ladies have few options in the UFC in terms of what weight classes to fight in. So if you want to fight in the UFC, your options are limited, and so Letourneau pretty much has to make that weight. But that's not the only problem in her corner. One of the training guys this month is not allowed in her corner to fight. Hector Lombard, who's on suspension, will not be allowed in Letourneau's corner, and he's been with her, training her the whole time, undoubtedly training her in some of that brutal jiu-jitsu he does so well, because honing that could really give her an advantage over Djedjic. She's a little slower than Djedjic, and she's not quite as accurate. And again, her camp was a tough one. The weight cut is a tough one. I'm going to have to go with the champ Djedjic as well. I agree with Mr. MMA. Djedjic with her hand in the air.
All right. I've got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this next one.
It's a big one.
It's the main event, folks. And I know a lot of people just tuned in just for this one fight, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is the big time.
That's right.
All right. It's going to be for the women's bantamweight championship. It's going to have the champion, Ronda Rousey, versus the number 7th ranked Holly, the preacher's daughter, Holm.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with Rousey. If you don't already know everything you possibly can know about the girl, right? 12-0 in her overall professional MMA career, 6-0 in the UFC, 4 performance of the night, 1 fight of the night, 1 submission of the night, bonuses to her accolade.
Lordy Lord.
Has finished her last 4 opponents in a combined 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and all in the first round.
Yeah.
Okay, with that last one coming in August of this year by submission, or by KO over Betch Correa, which was 34 seconds, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Son of a bitch.
Let's go with Holm. Is 9-0 in her overall professional MMA career. 6 of those wins by knockout, but is only 2-0 in the UFC. None of those are knockouts. The first one was a split decision win over Raquel Pennington in February of this year. Unanimous decision win over Marion Renault in July. As you all know, Miesha Tate was first announced as the number 1 contender for Rousey's belt, but then later on was switched over and they gave it to Holly Holm.
Yeah.
They're actually now calling it a verb now. We don't want to Miesha Tate you if you get skipped for a title shot. I feel so bad for him. Yeah. So actually, one of our favorites, Claudia Gadella, had that. Sean Shelby just finished telling her. He says, "I don't want to Miesha Tate you." Yes, Miesha Tate has been verbed, folks. That's how bad this whole little thing was over. But let's get beyond of why this match happened or why it shouldn't have happened. Let's just go with who my weigh-in is.
Yeah.
Really. It's going to be Rousey, okay? 5 simple reasons, okay? Ready? Here they go. Number 1, it's a bad style matchup. Okay, a grappler versus a striker, and a striker who we all know nowhere near has the expertise or accolade that Rousey does. Okay, number 2, this is a 5-round fight.
Yeah.
You cannot run forever. Common sense says that Holm needs to work on her spacing, keep her footwork moving, stay on the outside of Rousey, don't allow a clinch. She's a boxer. Have you ever seen a boxing match that didn't involve clinching?
Yeah.
And we're fighting an MMA fight here, folks. Well, I'm saying we're not, but these girls are. She's not going to be able to run for 5 rounds. Okay? If you look at Holm's record, pre-UFC, knocking girls out. Gets into the UFC, barely squeaking out wins. Okay? The level of competition has stepped up big time for this girl, and I think that this jump, giving her the shot at Rousey, was too huge of a jump. But hey, if I was in Holm's shoes and somebody offers me a title shot tomorrow, guess what I'm taking? So, but, and you know, like I said, it shows in the upper echelon, and this one's a little bit too big to chew off. Reason number 4, look at Rousey's experience. It pales in Holm's record and career in her boxing pales in comparison to the level of competition, the level of magnitude of competition that Rousey has gone through. Olympics, hello, okay, world championships. The whole bottom line is that she's already a seasoned veteran of the sport on both sides, a champion, let alone facing serious competition. I don't think Holm has ever really had that. And fifth, even though please forgive me for those people that don't like the comparison because I'm not into dogfighting. This is a pit bull versus a Doberman. Who do you think is going to win? Rousey with her hand raised.
Yeah, I think that this looks like an excellent matchup on paper. It's one of those that if you look statistically about how each of the fighters are undefeated, the significant strike ratios and what have you, it looks like a reasonable matchup. It looks just as good as all of the rest of the matchups on this card, and this card is well matched. But in reality, I'm going to agree with Mr. MMA. I do not think Holly Holmes is quite ready in her MMA development to face the champ. Or Ronda Rousey at that. I mean, who's really ready in that weight class to face Ronda Rousey? I don't know if anyone is, but I think that Holly Holmes has been thrown to the dogs a bit. It's great for the promotion. It's great for Holly Holmes. Title shot, big money. Can't complain. But it's more of a way to get the audiences familiar with her than it is really any chance in hell for her to win. I really don't see any possibility of her winning, and I'm going to weigh in with Rousey with another quick defeat and defense of her title. Okay? Well, hey, thanks for watching us, guys. And we want to remind you, Mr. MMA live tweets during all of the fights. So join us at The Weigh In MMA on Facebook, at The Weigh In MMA on Twitter, and follow him. Talk back to us. Don't forget to click subscribe, too. Let us know what you think about the show, about our picks. And if you've got some picks that you want to weigh in on, put them right down there in the comments section. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Weigh In.
Yeah.